Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Halftime with Bizzy. I'm very, very happy to bring today's guest on the show. In just a short amount of time, it's just been one of those moments where it clicks, and this guest that we have coming on today has an amazing story, but he's just an amazing guy, and we've had a lot of good conversations, even not talking about the podcast, and he's this guest today. He's just one of those guys, man. He's just a fucking good dude. Got a good head on his shoulders, and very happy to bring him to you today. We have Spacesal joining us today, and he has a very, very notable career in the CS industry. Many of you guys know about Forsaken, India's most well-known player. Not for a good reason. Well, if you go into the Forsaken clip where he gets found cheating and that whole, ordeal happens on stage, if you look real close, right behind Forsaken is today's guest. I don't even know where to start with Spacel's, history on his not only career but his life as a whole. He's really been a part of quite a lot, from traveling the world, when he was just a young guy, getting involved with the Counter-Strike pro scene and getting involved with Team OpTic when Team OpTic was in Counter-Strike. I mean, he's really done quite a whole lot. And most importantly, if you guys are tapped into the Twitter community and the whole DRILLAS situation, he was actually a manager for the DRILLAS. That just happened recently in Shanghai for the Shanghai Major. And we talk a little bit about that today as well. Probably the most notable topics today are going to be the Forsaken topic, which we cover, and of course the DRILLAS, which we also cover. But I think the story of Spacesal as a whole is very interesting. I think you guys are going to love it. It makes for a real good listen. It was just as enjoyable listening to it the second time when I was editing it as it was the first time when he was telling me. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. We will catch you guys on the outro. Enjoy. Hey, what's up, man?
Yo, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Not too bad. Just enjoying the morning in Los Angeles by the beach. Can't complain.
Love that, man. It's so weird that it's like still kind of like the morning for you because it's like the sun's going down right now. I'm looking at it. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I say it's morning because I just woke up, but it's actually like 12:45. But yeah.
All right, perfect, man. Well, I'm glad we can finally meet up and do this, and not be against each other on Vertigo like the other night. It's definitely a better setting.
I'm just happy I didn't show up with the goose egg, man. I was worried because I was having some really bad maps before that where I was like not even getting double digits on frags, and I was like, oh shit. Now I'm playing against somebody I know. I have to try.
No, it was a good time. It was a good time. My whole thing with starting off an episode with a guest is like I kind of like to talk about the before the Counter-Strike like experience happened. So I kind of wanted to touch base with your personal life. You served 2 years in Singapore's national service as a police officer. You eventually moved from Singapore to USA and went to Atlanta for high school, graduated from college in Boston. Like you've been all over the place. Was this like a very chaotic time in your life to kind of like you were literally all over the place?
Yeah, it was very interesting because I actually left home at the age of 13 because I have dyslexia. So when I was
Oh,
growing up in Singapore, the Dyslexia Association of Singapore was actually founded when I was a child, and I was, I think, patient one or two, actually, if I'm not
no
mistaken.
way.
So there was very little support system for me in Singapore, even though I was going to one of the best schools in the world called Singapore American School. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep up in the classrooms, So having the blessings that I have, which is my parents, who have done extremely well in their lives, were able to, excuse me, afford to put me in boarding school in Atlanta. So I moved out of my house when I was 13 years old and lived in dorms for 4 years from 13 to 18 or 14 to 18 for all of high school. And
Oh
then I
my.
came back home and I served national service for 2 years, which 80% goes into the military, 10% goes into the police force, and 10% goes into civil defense, which is like um, ambulance, first year response, and firefighter. So I got put into the 10% for the police force. So that was really cool because you got to see really the dark underbelly of Singapore, which is never publicized. It's heavily censored. You don't get to see what the red light district really looks like unless you really kind of indulge in those things or you're a cop, you know? So it
Okay.
was really cool to see that Singapore actually had some of these things kind of hidden away. And I got to experience a lot during those 2 years as well. So yeah, I've been kind of I guess my family, lack of better term, would be fiercely independent because I left home at a very young age and I kind of had to figure it out with very little support. Saying when I say support, I mean like, having my dad around 24/7. He
Hmm.
was always working, he did his thing. My mom was doing her thing and she was in Singapore, so during those formative years, I kind of had to figure it out on my own, and growing up in the dorms with a bunch of really good friends, it helps you kind of get to a certain place, especially when it comes to maturity. Because right after I finished high school and I finished boarding school and I went to the military or went to the police, I realized that no, yeah, I needed to get my ass whooped into shape, and that's exactly what the police force did for me. It was 6 to 8 months of basic police training. I had blisters on my palms of my hands from doing push-ups on hot cement floors.
Oh my
Um,
God.
the whole works. When you think about going into like a military training or police training, this is basically they're training you to protect the country because we don't have like a full-fledged military that's going to defend our tiny little island, so
Oh.
that's why this has been a thing since independence about 56, 57, maybe 58 years ago. Shit, I should know this. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't.
No,
Singapore's
you're
just it's
good.
still a very new country, so yeah.
Oh, that's super interesting. Like I know your career wise runs deep, but like to hear all of that on top of it, like to travel like that at 13 and then go to the States and stuff, I'm sure it's much different in the States than it is in Singapore. And you kind of just like you said, like you're just kind of by yourself, and like that must have been crazy to deal with at that age.
Yeah, it was a huge culture shock for sure. But again, I mean, you got to keep this in mind. I'm living in a dorm with a bunch of boys. As much as it was a culture shock, especially being 13 years old and getting there after my freshman year, sophomore year, obviously you do get a little bit more comfortable. You have an understanding of how the nuances work, what you can get away with, what you can't, what the weekends look like. And the one thing in the US as well is when I turned 14, I got my learner's permit. So I started driving, and no one back home in Singapore could drive until they were 18.
Oh
So by
man.
the yeah, so by the time I turned 15, I got my license and I had a car in the US, and all my friends back home were like, "Wait, you can drive?" I'm like, "Yeah, I could drive and I could go do whatever I want now." So
Holy
it
dude.
was a very different experience growing up for sure cuz obviously, my family does I come from money, my parents didn't come from money. So the culture that I've been kind of brought up with in Singapore are with wealthier individuals or wealthier families. So some of these guys are really like babied, and they never get to experience some of this like real life stuff until much later on.
Wow, man, that's like super cool. Super cool to hear you unpack all of that.
Oh, I could tell stories for days, man, but I don't want to keep you here for hours.
No, it's all good. The next thing I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about was like during all of the chaos and the moving and all of this stuff. I know you kind of told me a little bit that you started playing Counter Strike before it actually released on Steam, so you've been around for a while in that department too. But when was it about that you discovered Counter Strike?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I actually learned about Counter Strike when I was going to cyber cafes when I was growing up. So we didn't have PCs at home. Uh, I was fortunate enough that my dad, at the time when all of this was happening, was actually founding a company called Sony Entertainment Television, which would end up providing me my first PlayStation or gaming console ever.
Dude, what?
Which, yeah, I never had anything prior to that. So when he got into the television industry was when they were like, "Hey, does your son want a PlayStation?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!
That's
Is that a
huge.
real question?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want a PlayStation. Can I have it today or when do I get it?"
Yeah.
And then, obviously I got into FIFA with all my friends, all the basic stuff. But then when I started going to the LAN cafe with my friends, like we would, save up all week from our lunch money, 20 cents every day, 30 cents every day, whatever we could save. And it's basically 50 cents an hour at the LAN cafes. Again, this is the mid 90s, right? I would say this is around anywhere between 97, I think, to 99, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So I was like, 8, 9, 10 years old, and we were just figuring out, hey, we could take our bikes and we can leave the apartment complex. We're not stuck here.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
we found out that there were cyber cafes that had video games in them. And so we're like, holy shit, we can spend our entire weekends here. So we got into a few games. Obviously, there was Half-Life back then, and we had Warcraft. We had Warcraft 3 came out as well, and then Dota All-Stars came out. And at the same time, uh, Counter-Strike was being made as well. And from what I remember is we had to use a mod to play Dota on Dota All-Stars, and on Half-Life we had to use the mod to play Counter-Strike until the game came out on CD.
Yeah,
When the
that's
game
right.
came out on CD, then the LAN cafes started to buy it. And at that point, we were like, guys, we could start to buy PCs at home pretty soon, once we get to that age. I think we were like 12, 13 by that age when we started to get our own PCs at home. So it
Okay.
was a good like 3 or 4 years where we were going to LAN cafes and just playing games. And that's how we got into it. We just, and nothing was online, right? There was no marketing online. There was no advertising online. We didn't have Gamer Magazine. This is Singapore. We're completely isolated from everything else. Like how
Just
I
word
got
of
my
mouth
stock
kind of thing.
exactly. Like for me, like we were big sports guys growing up, right? So for us, the English Premier League was the number one sport that the entire country followed, and if you weren't listening to it on the radio or just so happened you had one of the channels that could catch it on satellite, you were just reading the box scores or you were reading the scores in the papers the next day, and
Wow.
and that's how it was eventually. And then maybe 4 or 5 years later, we had cable television or the basic television came through, right? Then we had cable television, then we had satellite television, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And today, now you can watch everything on your fucking phone.
Oh yeah.
So I was growing up in an age where it was transitioning from everything was word of mouth and paper to everything eventually within 10 years being in the palm of your hand. Like that's how quickly things transitioned when I was growing up. Um, but yeah, long story short, that's how I got into gaming and Counter Strike and a bunch of other games like FIFA as well, because that's the one game that everyone in my community played. So especially if you wanted to have people around you playing, that's what it was. But when we got our PCs, though, we all downloaded Counter Strike. We all got the CDs. If I remember, I still have a lot of those CDs in Singapore actually.
Oh hell yeah, right
Um,
on.
and I think I posted it on the 20th anniversary of Half-Life 1. I don't remember if I posted it then or when it was, but I posted it at some point. But yeah, no, I don't want to get carried away, distracted, but you can go on.
No, it's all good. And I just wanted to touch on the whole advertisement thing. Like I'm a 99 baby, so I wasn't really around too much for the whole like word of mouth era of like when things get popular and seeing it kind of spread that way. But
Hmm.
it is pretty, and it must be crazy like from your point of view with like you were familiar with that. You're like, "Oh, hey, have you heard about this?" Like, "Oh," and people start talking about a game, a movie, a show, whatever. And then
Yeah.
now, like you said, as we all know, everything is on your phone. You can stream everything. You can scroll on Twitter and ads will pop up for stuff that's coming out. Like it's crazy how everybody knows everything now. Like it's so easy.
Information comes really quickly today, and I honestly miss the days when you used to have that opportunity to actually discover and learn something on your own rather than being shoved down your throat via social media or something like that. I still remember because I don't even realize I have 10 years on you. I was born in 89.
Oh,
So
okay.
for me, it was a very interesting period because I never actually had the opportunity to really have that full-fledged word of mouth experience. I think I only had that for a couple of years until people were like, "Hey, we can have computers at home," and
Mm-hmm.
then everything started to change. Once people started having their own PCs, their own desktops. I mean, I still remember back in the day we were playing Call of Duty on PC. It wasn't on console yet, right? That's how old I am, I guess.
So when you began playing Counter-Strike, what was your mindset like toward the game? I know you were still fairly young and whatever, but was this something that you'd kind of just play in your free time for fun, or was this immediately like a holy shit, this is so fun, I can't stop playing kind of matter for you?
Holy shit, this is a lot of fun. Because for us, obviously, we'd played several games till that point, and obviously playing Half Life quite a while prior to that as well. When we saw something that was a little bit more polished off, in essence, for a real 5v5 shooter, we were like, "This is awesome."
Oh yeah.
It's as basic as it needed to be. It wouldn't have any of the glitz and glam. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys remember. I don't know. I'm saying you guys, but if anyone else remembers how pixelated 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, all the way to 1.6, like even some of Source used to look really fucking bad, you know?
Uh-huh.
But when it got to that point and we had a game that we were able to like just go to a LAN cafe with 10 guys or 5 friends and would go meet 5 other random ass people, like they would just show up and say, "Hey, we're looking for 5 to play." And that's how it would happen. Like that was it. There was no other way to find other people to play until again dial-up came around and then the internet came around and stuff like that. And then Steam, obviously. Um, but yeah, that's what it was like. It was we fell in love with the game because for us, again, we came from playing sports to then having all of this. We went from you know not being able to use our imagination much more than what the soccer field allows us to do to now being able to kind of come up with fantasy worlds that Dota and Warcraft provided with you. And then you were able to play strategic first person shooters that, obviously back then we had, what was it? There was Doom. Sorry.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Doom. That's
I
my
was like, there's
favorite.
one more. It's like, there's definitely one more. And then obviously with Team Fortress, I mean, things were so much fun with Team Fortress as well. When that game came out, holy shit, we played the crap out of that game. But yeah, for us too, it was like it was discovering something new all the time because we didn't have a vast number of games to even pick from. Like I remember there were days where we were just playing Worms Armageddon because we were just sick of playing everything else. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were just trying to blow up each other's characters on the map just because like we're so sick of this game.
Yeah. And I think like, with anything Valve has really ever put out, like Half-Life, perfect example, timeless classic,
Hmm.
like that game was so ahead of its time. And then, Counter-Strike obviously being on the Source engine and pretty much anything that has to do with the Source engine and, like anything that was built off of Half-Life or like Team Fortress and stuff, like I feel like those were all really ahead of their time and like Valve really, set the tone when they came out with some of these titles.
They had to. I mean, look, at the end of the day, what these guys did set the path for the rest of the gaming industry. And not just the gaming industry, I take that back. I would say it's more prevalent to the esports scene,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because if you see what has happened since then, obviously I'm a big Dota advocate, so I'm going to keep saying that League of Legends is its little brother or little sister, whatever you want to call it, right? It's fine. But that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for it, but look, Dota came first, right? Very
Yep.
straightforward. That's what had happened. The two guys who created Dota actually split up, and then one guy created League of Legends after Dota.
Oh
That he
wow.
joined Valve. Yeah,
I never knew that. I'm not too into the Dota scene and stuff like that, but that's really interesting that I did not know that.
yeah. I mean, look, I like to hate on League just because I love Dota, but I think they're both great games. I just don't play League enough to be able to say that I know it. So yeah.
And much like Counter-Strike, like those games have been around for such a long time and like the player count, like just go look at the Steam charts, like they're so relevant still. It's pretty amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's awesome to see that actually, because I mean, most games these days don't have a half life of more. Funny enough, Half Life. They don't have a half life of more than a year or two.
Oh
By the
yeah.
time it hits 3 years, 4 years on the shelf, people have stopped downloading the game. Your daily active users are shifting or decreasing significantly faster and faster and faster until you get to a point where, hey, I'm not going to pay for the server to keep this game online anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the trajectory in games and where that's been happening has been so abysmal for the last, I would say, even 5 years. That I mean, if you go back and look at the top games of the year every year in a row, it's one of a slew of the same sort of game. There's nothing innovative, there's nothing new. I think Fortnite was the only one that took something that existed and changed it into a cultural phenomenon, right?
Big time.
But everything else was kind of just, hey, this is a good game. Let me play it for a couple weeks and then it's gone. The esports games, on the other hand, right? Those games that have a competitive aspect to it, that have prize pools, that have real teams that are finding people who've putting their hard-earned money, investment dollars into these organizations to go and find opportunities for these players to go and compete. That's a whole different game, right? That game has legs.
I wanted to kind of jump ahead and talk more about your college and you shifting into your career path and stuff like that. You have a degree in business management from Curry College in Boston, and it really makes sense how you ended up working for OpTic Gaming as team support coordinator and international development director. How on earth did you get in touch with such a huge organization and end up working for them? They're not around anymore, and at the time when they came out, like it was a big buzz in the scene. Like that must have been a pretty huge accomplishment.
Yeah, definitely. Right place, right time. I say that a lot, but there's always a little bit of luck involved in everything you do. And that's something that a lot of people just need to kind of hold close to them and say, hey, look, I'm going to give myself an opportunity to put myself out there and find something to do with my life. And for me, funny enough, actually, it's quite a long story between the two things that you just brought up. So for me, Boston college, or being in college in Boston was immense. It was a great experience. Um, but then after that, studying. So let me rewind a little bit. Actually, I wanted to study sports management, and I wanted to go. My dream is always to be a team owner for traditional sport.
Okay.
My hero in life has always been Sir Alex Ferguson, the manager of Manchester United. Um, I always dreamt of being able to idolize and envision what he does and try to put that or be able to do something like that in my life. So I actually wanted to do that. My family said no. So I had to study, business, entrepreneurship, marketing, finance, etc., things like that. Because at some point in time, obviously, they knew I'd have to help, take over whatever they would leave behind. We don't have a family company or anything like that. It's just assets, etc., things like that, right?
Okay. Okay.
When I ended up graduating from college, I went back to Singapore. I worked at a startup. So, by the way, some background on my families. We all have worked in startups. I think only one person in my family has ever worked for somebody else.
Really?
Everybody else is an entrepreneur in my family. Yeah, I'm talking about
Wow.
from my Parix family. My dad is an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. My dad's brother is an entrepreneur. My cousins are all entrepreneurs. I think it's something in our blood where we just can't really work for anybody else, like we have a thing for against authority, like we need to be in charge kind of thing. But
That's like
um,
unheard
y-
of, dude. That is insane.
yeah. So like we've all just been serial entrepreneurs, and part of what I did actually prior to gaming as well was work in the startup space where that's where I made my money. And obviously I would recommend to anybody listening to this, unless you're a player, you're not going to make money in the esports industry. Okay. Keep that in mind. Yes, follow your passion, follow your dreams. But for someone like me, trust me, I'm going to make my money somewhere else and then go enjoy being part and uh, a positive impact in the industry, because that's what it needs more than anybody else right now. It doesn't need people coming there looking for money and saying, hey, I need to pay my bills. Can I work for you? Like that's not what they're looking for, and they haven't been looking for that for a long time, and it's never going to change for a while. It's way too nascent. People don't understand that, yes, these organizations did get funding when I was a part of them, but they're not getting the money that they were handing out back then anymore. Yeah, I'm getting distracted by too many things, but let me start the story, I guess, for you
You're all good, dude. Talk your shit,
fro-
man. You're all good.
from leaving college, right? I actually left college. I graduated over there, went back to Singapore, worked at a startup over there. The startup was great. Don't get me wrong; they did very well. I'm an investor in the company still, and they sold, so I made a shitload of money on that. I'm very happy.
Beauty.
But I couldn't work there, because it was a tech company, and they were looking for me to do some bullshit ass work that I had no interest in whatsoever. And so I made a deal with my folks. I said, hey, let me go back to the US for a year and figure out something to do. Right. And so I moved to Los Angeles. This is 2018, no, 17 maybe. And I'm literally just sleeping on a friend's couch for 6 months and looking for work.
Okay.
And while I'm in this process, I'm like, okay, there's a couple of opportunities in sports management in Texas with the MLS. So the FC Dynamo, or sorry, Houston Dynamo and FC Dallas. These two teams. So I said, okay, let me pack up and I'll go move to Dallas. Moved into a family friend's house. Said, hey, I'm just going to take one bedroom for a couple of months and look for some work. And I ended up interviewing with both of these organizations, and they both found ways to put me in their scouting program and then work me up to get my license for coaching and management, etc. And I thought that was going to be a great opportunity for me.
So hold on to
Little
cut
did
you
that,
off real quick. You
yeah.
went to go and get an interview with both of these companies, and both of them were interested in you?
Well, they were both interested in providing an opportunity. They were not going to pay me. They were just going to say, hey, look, here's some opportunities where you can come and participate. If you
Wow.
add value, then we can consider looking at something for you to do.
So
Right.
your foot is in
And
the
so
door in two places at once.
not just that, half of my foot is in each of those doors, not even the full foot, right? They're like, here's an opportunity. We're not going to pay you. We're not going to guarantee you anything. We're going to say, here, try and do something. And if you can make it happen, fine. I'll consider it. It's not
Wow.
even here, I'm going to give you a full salary, things like that. And I don't think a lot of people understand that that's what it really takes to get your foot into any door anywhere in any industry. I hope people take that, as a good learning, if anything, from this entire conversation, is that, you really need to put yourself out there and give yourself a chance to actually win. No
Gotta
opportunity is just going
sacrifice.
to come show up there. No one's going to show up at your door with a golden spoon and say, "Hey, here's the opportunity. Your life is sorted now. Enjoy." You know,
Yeah.
because change comes for you every single year without fail. And you're gonna have to learn to deal with it and grow and continue to, find a way to live life and succeed in life and whatever you think is success means. So yeah.
That's crazy, man. I always love a good story about someone. I'm a big believer in, taking a gamble on yourself, and I'm a very introverted kind of person. Like, I don't really like. I'm never outside. I'm never at a club. I'm never at a bar. I could give a shit about going to that sort of thing, and making a bunch of friends. Like, I'm really an at home body, and a lot of my life involves like the internet and like playing Counter
Yeah.
Strike and making videos and stuff like that. But I've always like I owned a skateboard company for a few years, and I ended up getting to travel because of it and stuff like that. And it was really awkward, and it's not usually like me to step outside of my comfort zone. But dude, it is such an important part of life. You have to do it if you want to,
Hmm.
like, if you're following a dream or something like that, like you need to do it. It's so important. So to hear like a story like yours, and hearing all the sacrifices and risks that you took, I commend you big time, dude. That's really cool.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy being away from family for that long, and only till very recently I realized I was like, I'm 35. I've been away from home since I was 13. I came back home for 2 years, somewhere in between, and then 3 years I was stuck in Singapore during COVID. So 5 years out of the last, what, 15 plus 20 years, I've been away from my family technically, and I'm just realizing that now, and I'm like, well, shit. I don't know how much longer they've got, and I want to make sure I go and spend enough quality time with them now too. So I think I took that for granted as well, and only now do I realize I'm like, shit, I didn't spend enough time with my family as I really should have.
But in a sense too, like, you kind of set yourself up financially, and you got your career on track and everything. So you're like secure, and now you realize that you can go and spend your time with them, maybe years that you haven't gotten to spend with them because you were grinding to get to where you're at right now. And I feel like there's some people out there that probably don't realize that they've, missed all of this kind of quality time with their family and stuff like that. And
100%.
you
Yeah.
realize this, and like you just told me that you're going back to Singapore not long ago, and it's that's important. You know what I mean?
The family time for me is important. Every Christmas, every December, without fail, our family's together. And I think that was something that we needed to make sure happened, especially the fact that my two parents are in Singapore, my sister's living in India with my two baby nieces and brother-in-law, and I'm in the US, right? So we don't see each other pretty much majority of the year. So for us, every Christmas without fail, we make it a point to get together and just do something. If
I love
it's
that.
traveling somewhere or just going to India and spending time with the elders, or whatever it might be, we always try to do something at least once a year, so that's really nice.
It
Um,
says a lot about a family, if you guys can all, you guys all have some stuff going on, like, different jobs, and you guys are scattered across the whole world, it sounds like, and you guys always make that happen. Like, that is awesome, dude. That says a lot.
it's kind of funny because we're all in the entertainment industry, but
Oh,
in
okay.
different forms of entertainment. So my dad uh, created an entertainment television channel called Sony Entertainment Television, which is the number two Indian channel on the face of the planet, which we don't own anymore. It's been sold for I think almost 10, 15 years now. Did extremely well from that, but he comes from television and stuff and tech. My sister, on the other hand, and my brother-in-law are from film. They work in Bollywood.
Oh shit. Okay.
My sister's director, and my brother-in-law is the CEO of one of the biggest production houses in India. So they take care of film, and then I'm in gaming. So we're all in our little pocket of entertainment.
You guys have all the bases covered.
Something like that. Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah. And again, sorry to jump back and forth, but I wanted to make sure I finished the story from before as
Yeah,
well when
yeah,
I
yeah.
moved
Go
to
ahead.
Texas. So I got to Dallas, and obviously I thought that I was going to have this amazing opportunity to finally get into the sports industry, something that I dreamt of my entire life. And when I was boxing in the mornings, funny enough, I didn't realize that one of the original founding members of Infinite Esports was in that boxing group with me.
Oh,
And my
wow.
trainer at the time was like, "Hey, you're into gaming, so is he. Why don't you guys spar and hang out?"
Oh
I was like, "Okay,
man.
cool." We started talking, and he's like, "Hey, we are looking for investors, and we're looking to, build this project." And the more he talked to me about it, and then he introduced me to Chris Cheney. He introduced me to a few of the other people who were involved, which again, I don't know what I am allowed to talk about, what I am not allowed to talk about,
Mhm.
because the OpTic wasn't the first team we were going to acquire, right? So, again,
Whatever doesn't
I
get
don't know
you in
how.
trouble. I don't want to get you in trouble doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So I'm not going to put out too much more information, but we raised a significant amount of money. We acquired OpTic Gaming, and we brought them from Chicago to Dallas. And for me, not only did we invest, but we made sure to get a board seat as well. So because I wanted to work in the company, I said, look, it didn't make sense if I took the board seat. So I told my dad, I was like, look, you've got some pedigree, you've got some understanding. They'll at least respect what you have to say. Why don't you take the board seat and help guide the company in which way it needs to go, especially because we had a significant amount of money invested as well, and I will help with the day to day. So my agreement was that I would literally start from the bottom, because I had never been a part of an esports team, and this was like a dream that I never thought would come through. Because if you grow up, when I was growing up, if you couldn't make the game or sell the game, there was nothing for you to do in the gaming industry, right? So
Yeah.
now I discovered that holy shit, there's an entire competitive side to it, and there's an entire content side to it, and there's an entire ticket sales, merchandising, etc., etc., etc. I mean, there's something significant that could come from this. Obviously naive enough. This is what we were thinking back then. We were valued a $3 billion company by Forbes at the time, right? And we
Wow.
could have been basically at the cusp of greatness. Yeah, within a year, I think they had to sell everything, and that was about it. It was really sad for me because, well, I made money, so very very happy. I made a lot of money, but at the same time, I was like, that was my baby. That was the best job, best career, best thing I'd ever been a part of in my entire life, and it was just taken away from me. And
Yeah,
so
that
that
sucks, man.
that that was a very very difficult time for me because obviously the reason why I'm here for this conversation is at that exact same time is when the story of Forsaken happens.
Yes, yes.
So all of this happened at the exact same time. Um, and so it hit me really, really badly. When all of this ended, I mean, I went into depression for a good 3 to 6 months. I didn't leave my room. Like, it was bad. But I'm glad that, I went through that. I learned a lot, and I am where I am today because of those experiences. So yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, like, obviously the Forsaken thing, I'm sure, is a little bit of a touchy, probably legal subject. So
No,
again,
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. There's no legal nothing. At the end of the day, they told me that I should not have gone to the press after what had happened. I was like, how does that make any sense? None of us knew what was going on. We clearly have one player that got caught cheating. If we don't say anything, that makes us implicated in what's going on. Like, how does that
100%.
make any sense? And they're like, no, no, we need to take our time, and we got to maneuver around it. And I was like, you guys, like, we're not fucking idiots. Like, we understand what happened, and now you're just trying to milk it for something else. Like, this is not going to help you in any shape, form whatsoever. And that night that it happened, they fired all of us,
What? No
and
way.
they fired all of us while we were still in Shanghai. And I don't think they realized that I'm an investor, I'm a board seat member, right? And they fired me, and I was like, you guys have no fucking clue what you're doing. Like, you're just thinking you're trimming the fat, trying to help the company because of this thing has happened, but now you're basically putting four innocent players out in the wind. And I don't care about me. Forget me. I'll live. All right, that's fine. Don't worry about me. But the fact that you've left these four players in China to say, hey, fend for yourselves and make it back home, like, that's really fucked up if you ask me.
So
The
they
way
had to
that
worry
these
about
guys
flights
handled the
home?
situation, well, obviously we know that I knew that the event organizer was going to make sure we got home. But the
Okay.
players have no clue. These are kids leaving India for the first time, going to a tournament at this scale for the first time, and let alone in China of all places where they think they hate them. So not only were we scared for our lives in China, but as soon as we got back to India, people were pretty fucking upset. Like,
For
people
sure.
were waiting for Forsaken at the airport, and from what I heard, he got beaten up. I
Oh,
don't know what exactly
wow.
happened, but he got beaten up. He showed up at
Wow.
a land cafe, I think a couple of years ago, And one of my old players messaged me saying, "Hey, someone saw him and they beat the shit out of him." I was like,
There's
"Yeah,
no
I'm not
way.
surprised." I mean, he destroyed single-handedly, Forsaken destroyed the Indian esports dream. Since that day, I don't think anything has significant has really come from that country. And this is me being an Indian saying that because I'm so proud of that country. I'm so proud of Singapore as well, and I'm a proud American too. But India has got a problem with cheaters, and it's still till this day cannot get over it. I
And
don't know why. I don't know what the rationale is. I don't know what the understanding is. But if you go and look since the day of Forsaken till today, almost every month, oh, a team got caught with this player cheating here. Oh, a team got caught with this guy cheating here. Oh, misconduct here, misconduct there. It's just a shit show. When I got to India, I remember there was conversations where there were no contracts. When we were trying to put this team together, this OpTic India team together, someone came to me and said, before you got here, players used to just say, or one team owner would go to a player and say, "Hey, I'll buy you an Apple Watch. You come play for my team now." And
no
that was it.
way.
And that was it. That was it. That was how business was conducted prior to OpTic coming to India.
Just flashing a bit of candy in front of your face. Hey, do you want this? Come work for us. But
These were the stories that was being told as I got there, and we are like, well, okay, well, this has got to change, and I'm very happy to see the amount of change that's happened. I'm extremely proud to see organizations like Global Esports, people like 8-Bit do extremely well with Soul and with the other organizations that are out there as well. But other than making content, because we have the viewership, meaning the eyeballs that we do in India, there's nothing significant that has come out of India in the gaming or esports scene ever. And
wow. And like
it's really, really sad to say.
with Forsaken, like everybody knows about that incident. Like everybody,
Oh yeah,
right?
everybody,
Everybody.
everybody, everybody.
So after that happened, to hear that the Indian scene for CS is it's still doing it, like all of these years later, it's like do you guys not understand? Like you're going to get caught. This guy
Hmm.
got caught and set a bad precedent for your whole country for esports, and you guys are still doing it. Like that's wild.
See, the thing is, it's not just in Counter Strike; it's every game. It's in every game, right? And the big thing as well that I think you need to understand as well with Asia is that, especially in the last 5 years, maybe it's become mobile first. All the games that are being played in at the highest level in Asia right now are all mobile games. So PUBG being the largest game,
No
which
way.
obviously PUBG Mobile is very easy to hack, right? I mean, you're talking about a cell phone.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the number one game right now. More hackers there than you'll find in CS, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure people know this already.
Hmm.
And that's not just PUBG on PC, but this is PUBG on the phone, PUBG Mobile. Then you obviously have Arena of Valor, you have Arena of Kings of Honor, you've got Free Fire, and I think actually no, Free Fire got banned in India. I think all the China games got banned in India, if I'm not mistaken. So I take that back, except for PUBG, which came back recently. But yeah, it's got a massive cheating problem in India, and that's the only reason why I refuse to go back and do anything over there. I always tell the guys back there, it's like, hey, I'm happy to help if there's anything I could do, and they just ask me to invest, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. You know, like, I'm not just going to forfeit my money to the Indian ecosystem that's just going to feed into more cheaters and stuff like that.
For
Which
sure, for
again, that's
sure.
not that's not what I'm claiming that they're doing. Right? I know all the esports teams out there right now are fighting against it really hard. They're massive advocates for cleaning up the ecosystem in India, but
There's just a handful
uh,
of bad people that just ruin it for
yeah,
everyone.
I exactly. I could not have put it a better way. There's just a few really shitty people out there who want to see the world burn. They don't want to see people succeed. They don't want to see people do well, and they're just gonna fuck it up for everybody else. And
It's really a
that's just
shame.
how it is. Yeah.
And like your face in the clip when Forsaken got caught, like it said everything right. That says everything right there. Like
We were
when
so confused. We were like, okay, because like right before that happened, Marzel, the guy who sits right next to him, swiped and turned his monitor off by mistake. Right.
uh huh
So we thought that's what the pause was for. And we're like, okay, maybe they're gonna figure out, see what happened. And we were like, okay, cool, cool, cool. And for me, again, I'm not a coach. I'm not a nothing. It was my birthday. They told me to go and sit there. I was sitting there chilling, dude. I was watching some CS, and Next thing I know, he's like, we've got an admin that's standing behind Forsaken and saying, hey, can I look at something?
Yeah,
Like, all
and you
right,
see
cool, cool.
Forsaken fighting him a little bit, like, no, don't touch
Well,
that.
before you even get to that, I was like, well, he was like, okay, and so they were just like move. I think he used his mouse to show him something. I think he minimized the screen, and like I was just like wheeling around or like spinning around in my chair or whatever it was, right? And I spin back and I look at him, and next thing I know, like he's flailing his arms and he's pushing back, and I'm like, okay, I gotta stand up now and see what's going on.
Uh-huh.
And at that point, I'm like, all right, he needs to see his computer and he won't let him. And I don't know why. So I pull Forsaken back on his chair and I'm like, look, you need to let him do whatever he needs to do, and we're gonna go from there. And so from that point, basically, I saw the clip. He basically did some alt F4. What's there's
Like alt
something
tab
to
to minimize
delete.
the game.
So there's an alt tab, and then there's something to delete a file as well. So what the admin said was that he was so quick that not only did he minimize the game, he pulled up the file that had the cheat in it and deleted it
Like he was
in
ready to
that
do
span.
it.
Bro, we had no fucking clue what happened until like a few hours later when the admin was like, "We're gonna obviously, time lapse it or not time lapse it back. What's it called? Basically reverse and there's some program to basically take the PC and put it back to where it was on a
Oh,
previous
like a
time,
backup?
backdate or whatever it is, right?
Okay.
So they downloaded the program, they paid for it, they did the whole thing, and they did that within like I think it was like an hour, maybe half an hour or so. You could see the document
Damn.
was there or the file was there, word.exe, and we're like, what the fuck is this? And then the admin goes ahead and explains it to us, and we're like, holy shit, this is like okay. Now what do we do, right? Obviously, we had won a bunch of things prior to that, so I was like, okay, well, fuck that. We're stuck in China right now. What do I do here? Because okay, everything was coming down all at once, right? I was like, wait, this is actually happening, right? I have a player that's cheating, first of all. Um, then we're sitting on the stage where we've got all the other teams that we're playing with are watching us, right? And we've got the other team that's sitting on the other side of the stage and they have zero idea what's going on, right? I make it a point on that stage to sit Forsaken down on. I don't know if any of this was filmed. Nick Hill, the guy who ran CS:GO to Asia, who's now the CEO of PaperX Valorant team, he was there, right? And he was a journalist at the time. He's the one who took the picture of the word.exe file on the computer, and that went viral everywhere to show, what was it and what was he doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if he filmed it or someone else from HLTV filmed it or not, but I fucking reamed out Nick Hill. Sorry. By the way, Nick Hill Forsaken's name is also Nick Hill. Funny enough. Um, I fucking reamed him out on stage and I basically fired him. I said, "You don't understand what you've just done. Like you actually have no fucking clue what you've just done. You've just
Mm-hmm.
destroyed not only your entire life, but the entire lives of these four other guys on the stage." And obviously he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. This, that." And then he just stopped talking.
Wow.
And I was like, all
Wow.
right. Well, I was like, look, from that point on, I said, you need to figure out how you are going home because you're no longer part of this team anymore. And that was the last I saw of him. Actually, I take that back. I saw him maybe about an hour and a half later at the hotel lobby, um, uh, at our hotel lobby because he was trying to figure out a way how to get to the airport because even the event organizers said they weren't going to help him. Um, and that was the last I saw of him. I haven't seen him since. But yeah, on that stage, then right after that, I went up to the middle and I said to everybody, I announced it to the entire crowd. I was like, look, this is exactly what happened. We don't accept it, nor will we accept it moving forward. He has been dismissed from the team and he's been fired from the organization. And that was it. I apologized that I said we forfeit from here on out and we apologize to the teams that we played against. And that was it. And obviously, at this point in time, everyone was sleeping in the US. So I'm frantically messaging everyone in the US. I'm like, guys, like this has just happened. What do I do? What do we do? Can we make sure we get everyone home? And then, maybe about 5 or 6 hours later, I get a call saying that, and prior to getting that call, I'd actually given a statement to HLTV saying
Okay.
that this is what happened, right? And obviously we don't condone any of this. None of us had any idea about it. And this HLTV report or interview I gave is essentially what got me fired, um, because they said that I shouldn't have gone to the press. That was the reason. So yeah.
That's wild to me. Like, I
Um,
think that says a lot about the character of the team, but more so for you, especially like right when this happens and there's so much confusion and chaos and you finally figure out what's going on and you go out there and address it and stuff like that. I think that's a really respectable thing to do. And I know with a team and an organization and there's contracts and it's a huge thing, but that's really weird to hear that they fired you for publicizing what one person destroyed. Like
Yep.
that
Yep. Yep.
that's
They fired
crazy.
me and the entire team, the entire Indian entity. They fired, and I think a day later they basically let go of the entire international department. The only reason I invested in the beginning, again, I'm not going to say how much or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
was solely to be able to learn and take what we have in the US to Asia. That was the whole point.
It's just wild to me, like in a situation like this, like why would they not want to at least just have like a conference with you, like just have a meeting and discuss before
Nothing.
they just
Nothing.
pull the string and fuck you, you're gone.
Nothing. They just sacked everybody right then and there. They said, "Nope, you're done."
Unreal. Oh, that's a shame, and I'm sorry you went through that. But like you said, you're glad you went through it because it showed you something and stuff. And I think that's a very important part of life in general. And I couldn't imagine like the depression that came after that. That had to have been. I couldn't even put it into words how fucking terrible that must have felt.
Yeah, it was a really difficult time, and I'll be honest. I look at it two ways. I look at it as I was really weak then, also because if I was strong enough to stay in the U.S. at that point in time, I think I would have been in a much better place in my life, especially within the esports ecosystem. I think I would have stayed more relevant because when I left, about a year later, COVID hit, and I was
Oh,
stuck in
okay.
Singapore for 3 years, right? So from 2019 to last year, I was stuck in Singapore. I couldn't work with any teams. I couldn't work with any organizations. I couldn't leave the country, right? I was stuck there. So for me, it was really, really difficult to kind of stay involved, right? So I
Hmm.
basically then decided, hey, I'm going to go start another startup, which again had its own series of events. And I was like, look, not only did I realize I didn't want to live in Singapore anymore, because especially now that COVID was over, I guess at the time, I realized that look, I needed to come back to esports some way or the other, right? Whether it's me investing, whether it's me just helping out on some projects, whether it's me just being able to be an advocate for the space. The one thing that I was able to do during my time after OpTic is consult. I've consulted with a lot of players, a lot of teams, a lot of organizations that are looking for help, a lot of teams that are looking for scouting of players. I've helped out with all of that. And for me, I've just kept my name out of everything because that's just the way I like to keep it
Sure,
because of the
sure.
Forsaken thing. Once I became more comfortable, which was, I would say, maybe around last year, I was like, okay, I'm going to start becoming more public with this. I'm going to start saying, hey, yes, I have kind of been around helping out, but now I'm ready to kind of go full fledged and say, I'm here. I've made my money where I needed to make my money. And now I'm back and I'm ready to help kind of build the ecosystem
For sure.
or help develop the ecosystem. It's been built to what it needs to be at. Now it just needs to be developed and fine tuned and made into an unstoppable machine, basically. If you look at traditional sport, that's how I would love to see esports be. You
Oh,
know,
100%.
not in
Yeah.
not in every aspect. Like again, there are aspects like again, player first is always going to be key, right? Player salaries are always going to be higher than everyone else's. These are things that we're going to have a very tough time dealing with, but that's the nature of the beast when it comes to competitive sport, right? Or yeah, I consider this sport. So yeah,
For sure. And I want to thank you for talking about it and stuff like that because I'm sure it sounds like you're very past the whole Forsaken incident and whatever, but that must have been probably one of the hardest times in your life I could imagine.
of
I
course, of
appreciate it.
course.
But I wanted to just ask you one quick last thing about it, and then we're gonna switch over to a way more positive topic because I didn't want to bring you here just for the whole Forsaken thing. I wanted to
No,
touch
no,
on
of
you
course.
as a person
Look,
too.
if you have more to ask, please feel free. Because like, look, all of us have made it a point to really just avoid the topic for quite a while, and now I think I even joke about it. I even type in games sometimes. Hey, have you activated Word.exe? Like I learned that there's always things in life that you can't control,
Yeah,
right? And you
yeah.
just have to learn to grow from it. and just try to be a better person, right? People are going to keep going after me and saying, hey, you knew what was going on and this and that. That's not the case. And it was never the case. And there were so many very, very integral people from the esports ecosystem and from the Counter-Strike ecosystem that were a part of this entire process who still hold very high positions in Counter-Strike and in esports, whose names have never come out of being a part of this and being part of the few people who actually handpicked Forsaken for this team, right? I don't go out there and start to push buttons and say, hey, look, these guys are the reason why this happened. No, right? There were a lot of people involved with this. But look, at the end of the day, now for us, it's part of history. It's part of Counter-Strike history. It's part of esports lore. Like, if I don't give my side of the story sooner or later, people are just going to keep twisting it more and more and more,
Yeah, for sure. But the last thing I wanted to ask you about it, and then, like I said, we'll move on.
Sure, sure.
It was not long ago that, it was announced that he was now unbanned. But just because you're unbanned, it doesn't necessarily mean you're right back into the swing of things. So
Yeah.
from a guy like you who has all of this knowledge in esports and, how the game goes behind the scenes with a lot of what the public doesn't see or hear about, what does Forsaken being unbanned mean? I'm sure this is obvious that, yes, he
It
can
means nothing.
compete, but he's never
It means
going to compete again, I'm sure, right?
it means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
Like, he's ruined his
Because
whole career.
yeah, no one's gonna touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a team game. He's not gonna find a team. He's not gonna find sponsorship. He's not gonna find anyone who's gonna give him time of day. Period. And let alone, is there a Counter Strike team in India that is even worthwhile? No. Right? Is anyone investing in Counter Strike in India? No. Is anyone investing in Counter Strike near India? Yes. Okay, the Mongols, 100%. But other than that, no. It's a game that got killed by one human being, Forsaken, in that region. Nobody is interested in that game anymore.
So I hope this right here, what he just said, I hope this is a learning lesson for people that might be watching this and are little closet cheaters, you little bastards. We don't like you, and you're going to fuck your career up if you decide to go pro and pull a little, you know, pull a
Well, it's
little
not just
fast one.
fucking up your career. It's not just
It's
fucking
fucking the
up their
sport
own
up too,
career.
the esport.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the game we love. It's the thing we love. Why do people love traditional sports as much as they do? Why do people watch Ronaldo and Messi as much as they do? Why do people watch Kerrigan? Why do people watch Guard? Oh wait, now I sound fucking old. Sorry. Not Guardian. Why did people watch Simple? Why did people watch why did people watch Nico, Monesi, Zaiwu? I'm trying. I should be talking about some of the newer guys. I'm so old, dude. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I mean, 1.6 days were amazing, man. They were amazing.
It's a shame that such a tragedy has to happen. Like the whole Indian scene now is erased for the most part. Like, you don't see it anymore, and like you were saying, OpTic India kind of, with what happened there with Forsaken, kind of ruined everything for them. Sometimes you don't want to see it, but sometimes it needs to happen for people to really realize the damage that you cause and why you shouldn't
Hmm.
do certain shady things like that.
Very much so. Very much so. I think only one organization has gone back to India since, and it was Vitality.
Okay.
And I honestly don't know if they're still there or not. And yeah, it's unfortunate. It's the fastest way to kill an ecosystem is to cheat or to
Mm-hmm.
have cheaters.
For
And
sure.
I unfortunately think India is going to have to reap the unfortunate circumstances that they've built for themselves because of it. And it's just sad.
Yeah.
Because India has so many people that can play games, right? And if you give them the opportunity to do it the right way, I don't see why there wouldn't be not like at least some sort of trajectory for at least decent players to come out of that ecosystem. But if you look at, I guess, SEA versus EU, right? There's a reason why there's such a big diversity in skill base. EU's pubs are so much better because they have more skilled players. They have more number of players, so they have more games that can be played, more nuances that can be created, and more skill that can be generated from that.
Mm-hmm.
Southeast Asia, on the other hand, is full of, lack of better terms, uh, casual players, right? And people who are just looking to have some fun or just kill some time, right? And it's very difficult to then create or curate pro players that have that skill set at that level. because they are never put in those circumstances till they actually leave that region. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why you will see there always being better EU teams, compared to SEA. NA as well has been struggling so much because of this as well. They have no academy systems anywhere across the entire country except for what Flom is doing now with what's his face at Complexity? Jake. No, Mr. Lake. Fuck. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I blank on names all the time. But other than that, there's literally nothing, right? Okay, Launders has got the Launders land up there, which is fantastic. But again, there's little, slim to none in terms of academy systems, in terms of growth trajectory, in terms of even the colleges that are now putting teams together are saying we're spending so much money to have the state of the art stuff in our facilities, but people are just coming for fun. No one wants to compete.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize that the guys going to compete don't end up going to school. They're
Wow.
actually going straight from high school to competing.
That's
Right?
wild.
So there's this huge misunderstanding in the US right now where they're saying, hey, where do we put our money and where do we invest to find the new players, to find the new talent, to find the new guys that are going to take over the names that have been in the scene for almost 10 years now, right? We can't find anybody because there's been zero support system for them. The fact that Summit is gone now, right? Beyond the Summit is gone now is a massive loss for the industry. The fact that Moonduck is gone is a massive loss for the industry. All of these homemade names of event organizers and event tournament organizers, right? That host these smaller events that are for tier 2, tier 3, and the one-off esports and other games out there, right? That the indie games. We're seeing people struggle with content today because of it. The only things that are left on Twitch to watch are officials and nothing else. Some content creators that are able to keep your attention, and that's it. This bubble is a burst before COVID, and during COVID, it needed to pop. But there's still a lot of change that needs to happen that people aren't making. They're investing their money in the wrong areas, and I'm scared to see what happens. I wish that there was some way for me to at least say, hey, look, we need to find new players, and how are we going to do that? You can't just depend on pubs and that's it.
Yeah, I guess we just gotta keep our heads high and hope for the best in that case. But
I mean, the US has figured it out for traditional sport, though, right? But again,
100%.
they've used school as the trajectory or pathway for that, right? Esports hasn't been able to get school to kind of connect the dots for them.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to see happen in the future, like to get a scholarship in college or something to eventually pave your
I
way
think
to a
they
pro
have
scene.
them.
Oh yeah?
I think they have scholarships for esports, but again, no one's going to take them seriously because they're meaningless. They're actually meaningless. Again, no offense to any of these organizations or teams or not teams, or schools out there, right, that have esports diplomas. I think it's a horse shit. I think it's a load of crap. It's just a normal entrepreneurship or marketing business class, just retitled to esports. That's it. There's nothing new, nothing different, no nuances. I don't know why people think that if we label it, more people will show up and take that class. No, you'll have less to teach because there's not enough there for you to talk about. You're making it all up.
Well, that's crazy, man. I don't really know a whole lot about that sort of aspect of, like just that topic in general really, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting topic to see because like it's more of like a badge of honor. Like, hey, good job. Here's a pat on the back. You did that, but what it gets you nothing. It's giving you zero experience because you've not been hands on. That's what this industry requires you to do is be hands on. You have to join a team, join an organization, join a team, event organizer, right, or tournament organizer, whatever it is, right.
Mhm.
Until you get your hands on, you have zero idea what's going on in this industry. And that's the truth. Nobody has a fucking clue. Everyone's
Yeah.
faking it till they make it.
Well, in brighter news, I wanted to talk about what you've been up to as of recent times, and this episode will be coming out in January, so the Shanghai Major will be over already and will be 2025.
Yeah.
But you obviously were a part of the DRILLAS, and that was a very big topic at the time. And
Yeah.
I think it will be for the next little while too. The DRILLAS will, I think the names will keep coming back up, and I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit at that whole experience and kind of what you were a part of for the DRILLAS.
Of course, of course. That was a great experience. I had a lot of fun. It actually started off very innocently. I was just kind of talking to Zipple, trying to buy a dragon lore, and obviously, we were kind of talking more about life and other types of things, and it just came up that Ona's thinking about doing this, and I was like, well, I can invest and I can help both. And yeah, that's kind of literally where it started. It just so happened like that. And little did we know, after one conversation with Mark, he was like, okay, help or come on board and help us, right? And let's figure this thing out. And so at that point, but he obviously said no to the money. He said he wanted to have full ownership and run the whole thing. And I was like, okay, absolutely, that's your prerogative, and you do it.
Hmm.
For me, I'm just happy to help and find a way to find some way to support some new players.
Yeah,
That was
contribute
the
back to the
best way.
sport again.
Exactly. And for me, I told him, look, at the end of the day, or Zippel and I both told him, like, look, for us, this is a passion project. We know that if we're not going to be making any money from this, unless we make it to the major or anything like that, or whatever, right? Because of stickers, you're going to be, you said you're going to cover the cost for everything else, for at least the players and for the staff, etc. moving forward. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm more than happy to play the role that's required. So ended up having a few ideas for teams, and we obviously were considering working with Smuya at first and trying to find a way to build a team around him. But because of the time constraint, I think we had 15, maybe 18 days to figure out this entire thing
Oh
and
wow.
submit it. Yeah, we didn't have very much time to put this whole thing together. Um, and then obviously, Smuya's got a contract. Some of the other players that the Asia players that we were looking at also had contracts. Uh, and we happened to meet Waro, and Waro said, I have a stack ready. I've got one guy from Morocco and two guys from Israel. We're like, all right, cool, let's see them. And so we interviewed them, and I spoke to them, Zippel spoke to them, Mark spoke to them eventually as well, and we had a good feeling for them. We said, okay, look, you guys clearly understand what you're doing. All you need is our support. We can be hands off, and you just do what you need to do, right? We're just going to support you. And so yeah, I basically took on the task of doing everything, right? um, Anything and everything that was required, from interviewing the players to signing their contracts to figuring out where we would play our open and close qualifiers, how everything would work moving forward from there, and then basically making sure that anything and everything the team needed and was that required, I managed and maintained it. Lack of better terms, I guess I was the manager for the DRILLAS, right? Um, but it was just the three of us, right? It was Zippel, myself, Zippel, Mark, and myself. And I think we got to Abu Dhabi. Mark and Zippel didn't come for that. It was just the five players and myself. It was a really good experience for us because we'd never all been together in one place, and you know we had four players in two different war zones. We had two players in Israel, two players in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's
So for
crazy, eh?
us, it was such a task trying to make sure not only was everybody safe every day, they were able to play every day. We didn't have to really deal with any of that once we finally got to Abu Dhabi. And that's when I think the team started to really gel together, have real conversations together. I took them out to dinners. We did our team bonding and stuff like that, and made sure we had all of our scrims and pracs prior to the open and closed, or sorry, the open, right? And at that point was when we realized, okay, these guys have some potential. They're not just five random guys that they've been thrown together to try and figure it out and just so kind of whim it together. So we felt a significant amount of confidence in them by the time we got to the end of the open and the end of the closed. But by the time we got to the point of, I think it was the online events that we were playing, maybe 2 months before the RMR or a month before the RMR, I think a lot of the cracks started to show from the team that, they aren't a well oiled machine, in the sense that we're not an org, right? We don't have a full support staff that's around them 24/7, making sure they're eating well, making sure they're doing what they need to do, making sure they're scrimming, making sure that all this stuff needs to happen that a regular team has on a 24/7 daily basis, right? These guys
Hmm.
don't have any of that support. Did we realize that, okay, maybe we need to step in a little bit more and help them out, especially making sure that they're organized for the RMRs as well? And so then we decided to do a boot camp. At that point, then Yeah, it became actually a lot of fun because we started playing a lot of online tournaments and we started to kind of have more conversations together. And it wasn't just a bunch of guys getting together when we needed to play CS and that was it, you know? Um, and we had a great time getting to know each other and stuff like that. But then obviously there was a few issues here and there with Amslam. He's a younger player, and obviously, you know, he had his nuances that the other guys were struggling with, and that he was struggling with as well. And I think as a whole, collectively group, they decided again. None of us had any say in it. We let them do everything that they needed to do, um, and they decided that mutually that Umslam wasn't going to play anymore, basically, right? Whether he was the one to say it first or not, look, it's not my place to say any of that stuff. I think a lot of people have been putting stuff out there, but he's a fantastic human being. He's a great guy. It's just unfortunate for the circumstances that we couldn't make it work, right?
Hmm.
And the only option we had was our substitute, or we couldn't go at all. Basically, they said, you can't play in the RMR unless you have one of these two guys playing. And so, okay, the reason we had center there in the first place was because Waro wasn't going to actually be able to make it to the RMR.
Oh, really?
He has, yeah, he was actually not going to be able to cross the border and leave Ukraine because he lives in Ukraine, and the only way out of Ukraine is through a land border. There's only one,
Oh
and
my.
I think it takes him about 8 hours to get through it, and sometimes he can't even get through that day. He has to go back the next day and try again.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, we had to deal with a lot of stuff, and a lot of people don't know this, and they like to go online and just say, "Hey, we're cheating the system and this and that." Bro, if we were gonna cheat the system, we wouldn't have picked someone like Center. I'll be very honest, right? But Center is the lifeblood of our team now. Like when I tell you this, I'm not trying to understate it, overstate it, nothing. This guy is amazing. Like when I'm sure people have heard One talk about Center now, like on his streams and stuff like that. But this guy actually, genuinely, after the whole thing with Amsterdam, I think brought our team back together. He brought them back to life. He showed him what it meant to have fun. It showed him he showed him what it meant to have confidence in yourself again. It showed them again, him having the past that he has, having been through so many teams, having stickers in the game already, being able to show that him today where he is, I think he was a perfect addition to the team and when we needed him as well, because they were all struggling, right? We were all struggling at the time because we didn't know if we were going to even have the roster to go and play because they didn't. We went through, I think, 6 emails back and forth to find out if we could even use center
Oh
because we were like,
wow.
"Are you sure we can use him? He's EU. We're replacing Asia. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" Bro, we emailed so many people. I think Donut emailed a bunch. I emailed a bunch. Mark emailed a bunch. Even Center's agent emailed. Um, I mean, we tried so many different ways, and that was just trying to figure out what about him, right? Obviously, if you've heard the stories about figuring out the logo and all these other things as well. I
Yeah.
mean, anything and everything we did was an uphill battle, but it was so much fun. Like it was part of the experience, like the fact that we actually made it to China, I think a lot of us were super proud of. We were super excited about. But if we were able to get through, man, it would have been a whole another ball game. Because I mean, look, at the end of the day, these are 5 guys that are looking to just make a career, right? At the end of the day, and
For
for
sure.
us, this is the pinnacle of their career. Is if you're able to get sticker in the game for them, right? Or it's not like we're getting in the game for them, right? We're just providing them an opportunity for them to do it themselves,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, I get immense joy out of doing projects like this. And so for me, even though with the trials and tribulations of the fact that we only had a few people working on it, this really spoke to volumes. Like for example, Blitz is a good friend of mine from Dota 2. He's a head of Dota 2 at Team Liquid.
Okay.
He used to be a really good caster with Austin uh, for Dota 2 as well before he started this job. But he said the same thing when they won TI this year in Copenhagen. It takes a village to have a team. The amount of people and support staff that you need to take care of all the nuances and little things that are going on a daily basis with a team is like I had white hair before this project started, but I could tell you I have enough white hair that's come on the last 6 months because of this project alone.
Wow.
Because it's only 3 of us that were doing anything, and I'll be honest, it was mostly Zipple and I doing everything. But yeah, uh, it was really really tough, and that's why Mark dealt with burnout, Zipple dealt with burnout, everybody dealt with a lot of burnout this year because there was just a lot to do, and fortunately enough, I was able to stay on my 2 feet throughout the entire process. So it was really rewarding, but at the same time, I felt like I could have provided more to the players so they could have achieved more. But I think that's always something that you feel kind of after it's all done, hindsight 2020, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah. But
Um,
I gotta say, just because I know Zipple, I don't know Oni. I've never talked to him or anything. But what a good guy. Zipple he's the fucking man. I
Salt
love
of the
Zipple.
earth, salt of the earth.
Love him.
He's an immense human being, and the conversations you have with this guy is amazing, because not only is he so knowledgeable about the game and sports, but his life as well is so unique that when you talk about things other than the materialistic things in life, and you talk about some of the more, um, lack of a better term, spiritual, right?
Hmm.
More
Life as a whole, kind of.
Yeah, I'm trying. I don't want to make it seem like we're old fucking guys just
No.
talking about life, We're talking about meditation and stuff like
No,
that,
yeah.
But
But Zipple's just
I
that kind of dude, man. Like
yeah, like we could talk about everything.
the first time I ever talked to Zipple, like when we were doing his podcast, we were like, I was kind of just, it was super early on when I was doing the whole podcast thing. And I was like, this is kind of a bit about me and this is the plans that I have. This is the direction of the show, blah, blah, blah. And, we got that out of the way. And I swear it was damn near 2 hours we were talking. And I'm like that was the first time I've ever actually talked to this person. And I'm like, I feel like I've known him forever. Super
Yeah,
down to earth, super generous, helped me get in touch with, Sparkles. Like he's like
yeah, yeah,
after
yeah.
after our episode, he's like, anybody you want to talk to, if I know them, I will try to help you with them. I'm like, dude, I'm not, I'm not trying to use you as a stepping stool to get to somewhere else. He's like, dude, I'm more than happy to do it. And I'm
And
like what a gem. This guy's awesome.
that's one thing that people always take for granted with him is his connection base and the fact that he's always, always willing to help.
Yeah. He
These
reminded
two
me of a
things,
Canadian a little bit. He was a little too nice. I'm like, are you sure you're European?
but it's fantastic, and that's the reason where he is today is because of the network he's developed, the people he's worked with, the relationships he's developed. Because of that, he's I can't even I can't I'm not trying to glaze as much as I possibly can, but he's opened many doors for me just in the short period of time that I've known him. And not only that, we worked on a fucking team called the DRILLAS together in
Yeah.
a short period of time that I've known him. And all I wanted to do was buy a skin off of him, and we became friends. It's he's got this magic spark to him. It's like
100%.
it's almost like it's this genuineness of, hey, I'm here to actually listen to you, and I care. It's not like I'm here to have a conversation to benefit myself in any way, shape, or form
100%.
whatsoever. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like,
Yep.
um,
Like we were talking
he's
about
actually he's
like
actually listening. Yeah.
yeah, like we were talking about like just life as a whole, and like we were talking about how NA is versus EU, and just so much random stuff, but it was like quality conversation. I wish I could go back and have that conversation again. Like he's just such a cool
Absolutely.
person to just talk to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is something that, again, I don't know how many people are going to be listening to it this far in or whatever, but if there is at any point in time in your careers that you need someone to talk to in your esports career, no matter if you're a player, if you're a team owner, you're a manager, whatever it is, finding someone like this to talk to will take you so much further in life.
Mhm.
I'm not telling all of you to start reaching out to Zipple as a therapist, right?
No,
But
no,
to find someone in your life like that is so, so powerful. And a lot of people don't understand that, right? When you keep those types of people around you, it's only going to benefit you in the long term. Trust me. And keeping people like Zipple around you is exactly what everybody in this world needs to try and find is a Zipple.
yeah. He's the kind of person that uplifts. Like he's a passionate person about life by the sounds of it, and especially about Counter-Strike and now the esports and stuff and being part of the DRILLAS and whatever. Like he's just a naturally uplifting kind of person, and having one person like that in your life is, I feel like it definitely helps change it a little bit, like
I
in a
have I have
positive
a, I
way.
have a really nice story about him as well. We were walking outside the halls of the team rooms in Shanghai, and every player that walked past us and was like, "What are you doing here?" The smile they had on their face, the genuineness to want to stop everything they're doing to talk to Zipple was unbelievable. From
It's
Case Serato
amazing.
to Twists. So I mean, this is it's not just me glazing him, right? Or you glazing him. This is people within the industry who are not even extroverts by any means whatsoever, who talk to people or do anything like that, who know who Zipple is and respect him and give him time of day and know that this is someone that I want to stop and say hi to. Like that is powerful in its own.
A
You know,
hundred
not
percent.
that, hey, this guy's got all these skins. Oh, he's a team owner. Oh, he's connected to ohnePixel and so and this and that. No, dude, this is a fucking amazing human being.
Yep.
Like that's it.
And I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about it too, because I saw a lot on my Twitter about it. You know, when you guys finally made it to the RMR, I'm sure like the excitement level, like you guys probably channeled in harder than you were before, and it seemed like you guys were already channeled in pretty hard. But you guys got to Shanghai. You know, was it like a hotel you guys were playing in? Because a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, they're so close together," and there's a fucking
Yeah.
bathtub over there. Like, did that kind of play a factor in how you guys like played?
I mean, I don't think so. Because look, at the end of the day, I think only two of them have played on LAN. Waro and Haji, I think. Um, the rest were all. Oh, sorry, Center. Sorry, Center also has played on LAN. I take that back. Yeah, he has stickers in the game as well. Prior to that, Amsalam was new. Mestal has played in think in two qualifiers, but didn't make it in prior. And Kvem is completely fresh, right? He's new.
Mm-hmm.
So for all these guys, I don't think it really played too much of a role in how they felt or what the atmosphere was like whatsoever. I think again, for me coming from Dota, this is very, very normal. I guess everyone in the CS scene was like, "What the heck is this?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "This is normal." I mean, this is absolutely fine to me. Um, but I think, look, at the end of the day, for them, I think the nerves only came once they got into the server. You know, I
Yeah.
think it's very different for them because they have never had to deal with the the screaming the crowds and stuff like that, and having to worry about all that stuff. So I don't think it necessarily played that much of a role for the players. I think it was absolutely fine. I think maybe if anything, the players not being in a straight line in arm's distance, so they could fist bump each other and like talk to each other like how they normally do on stage. That was probably the only thing that really kind of held everyone back. Was like, okay, hey, I can't fist bump my team. Like, how do I celebrate? And
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
One made it a point to actually tell everyone, it's like, hey, you guys need to shout. You need to celebrate every round you do good. Every time you guys have a clutch or something, like you need to make some fucking noise and celebrate that fact and not just be quiet.
Feel the energy as
You
a
got to
team.
exactly, and that's something One brought to the team like immensely, and he made sure that they understood it too. So I think that would be really the only thing that would really be a nuance to what the norm would have been. Because yeah, I don't think any of them have played on a big stage with thousands of people before, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't have played too much of a role to them.
And like you guys, like obviously Oni's community, as him just being OhnePixel, all DRILLAS stuff aside, like very supportive. They love him, and with the DRILLAS being announced and him, bringing that to his community and showing them that and achieving what you guys achieved, even though unfortunately you guys didn't win. I think you guys still proved yourself a lot, and not anybody gets to go compete for a major, right? Like that's a big
Mhm.
thing. Whether you win or lose, that's a huge opportunity. And you guys had a lot of love and support, and obviously, with love and support comes people that hate and stuff like that. And like, did that were you guys just kind of closing all of the negativity out? Like, were you guys really just thriving off of all the positivity that was going around?
I would love to say yes, but that would be a lie. I think all of us knows how this works when it comes to social media. For
Yeah.
every 10 positive posts, there's one negative, and that one negative means it's actually worth 100 good posts, not 10, right?
Hmm.
So I think, look, I brought it up to Zipple and Mark a few times, and I know that they were like, let's not look at it and let's not think about it. And I was like, look, the only reason I'm bringing it up to you is so we can make sure to have a strong front in front of the players to make sure that they are 100% going to see it, but we manage them, right? We need to find a way to not just keep them off their phones, but to keep them in the right mind space. And I mean, I sent you a lot of the screenshots of the tweets we were getting.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was fucking disgusting. It's embarrassing. The fact that people made these types of pictures and depicted our players and One as these things that can slaughtered or whatever, right? Like that's fucked up beyond measure. But
Like,
yeah, I think, look, the players I think take it to heart for sure because they are in China. but I don't think they took it in the essence of it other than it being a keyboard warrior or someone on the other side of a keyboard just typing because they can type, right?
Yeah.
I think after a while we realized, like, if the guy was face to face with us, he would never say a fucking thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of the growing experience and that thick skin that's needed and required in esports, and especially Counter-Strike. It is a ruthless place to be on social media. And if you can't maintain and manage that, let alone within the leadership group, within the players and the coaching staff, it can become a massive detriment, right? It can literally become an anchor to a ship and you would just stop. Um, I know that a few players struggled with it a bit, but I don't know that anyone necessarily took it so far to heart that they were worried that someone was going to come and kill them or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
we were getting death threats and stuff like that. We were getting told to say, go home and kill your mom and dad and this and that. Like, it was really fucked up
Like,
stuff
hope
these
your
guys were
plane
saying.
crashes. Like, at the end of
Yeah,
the day,
yeah,
it's a fucking game, guys. Yeah, it's an esport, and I'm not taking away anything from that at all. But it's a fucking video game. Like, are
yeah,
we really
yeah.
wishing death and harm upon people? Like, grow the fuck up, you know?
And the worst part was too is that they were sticking to the narrative of calling us thieves when we were getting nothing out of this.
Yeah,
Like,
and Oni revealed the cuts, like the percentages. Like, he was
yeah,
being
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
fucking fair.
There's nothing for us to hide. By the way, I got 0 from this entire project.
Like you said, it was just all passion.
I got nothing out of it other than my experience and being able to help these people get to what I felt I would be able to help them do.
Hmm.
There was no contract for me or Zippel, nothing like that, right? So for us, it was purely based on the fact that we wanted to make a difference in this opportunity that Oni was providing to these guys,
Yeah.
right? And anything and everything we could do, we would do it, and that's it. I traveled around the world for 6 months just to take care of them. Like, literally, that's all I did. I became the manager, if de facto. Yeah.
Wow. Well, again, of course, you guys unfortunately got bumped out, but I still commend you guys big time because that's a very daring thing to do. It's a very like there's so many angles to it. Building the team, just everything business related, and then committing to the travel and flights,
Yeah.
hotels, food, everything that comes with it. And you guys did it, and you proved yourself in the time that you were there. Of course, you didn't get the result you guys wanted, but I think just because you lost, it doesn't make you guys losers. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying
I
to say?
agree. I agree. I agree. And I'm ready to do it all over again. But unfortunately, that was potentially the last open, right? So for me now, it's now I'm gonna look for an organization that's out there that I can potentially make an impact with.
Okay, because that's what I
So
was gonna ask you
yeah,
about too. Is the DRILLAS like, are they gonna be coming back? Is that something that you know of?
that's completely up to Mark.
Okay.
OnlyPixel is the 100% owner. He decides anything and everything from this point on. I think the brand is just his, and that's all that's left. The teams, I've been talking to the players, we're helping them find new teams, and yeah, that's been about it for myself. I'm looking for an org to potentially join and see if there's some positive impact I can make. And again, I don't solely work in Counter Strike. I work in multiple esports in multiple countries across the world. So that's a little plug for me if anybody's looking to
Yeah.
hire. You know.
And hey, man, you've done it before, and I think
Yeah,
you'll do
yeah.
it again, man. It's just a matter of time. Sometimes shit happens when you least expect it, and I think you'll have a bright road ahead of you. If you've come this far, I'm sure you'll continue to go. So.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And whether it's in CS, Dota, or even a new esport that might come in the future,
Hmm.
I'm always looking to find a way to help and contribute, even if it's not, full time. I'm okay with that because, like, at the end of the day, if I'm able to contribute even 1% to a project, that's enough for me. Like, I have some satisfaction, some honor in myself in knowing that I'm able to at least make some sort of an impact in whatever capacity that I am able to do it in, rather than just being a fly on the wall or someone useless or saying, "Hey, I wish I could have done something here. I wish I could have done something there." I'd make it a point to actually put myself out there and try,
For
and
sure.
whatever comes of it comes of it. And hopefully I'm able to do my best.
Absolutely, man. That's pretty much everything I have for you, man. I can't thank you enough for, telling me your story and sharing it with the world. And, you know, I'm sure people will listen to this and take something away from it. So thank you very much. And for the ending of the episodes, I always like to let the guests do the outro. If there's something maybe we haven't covered, if there's someone you want to shout out, feel free to take the
Um,
floor.
yeah, I think, look, a lot of A lot of people have come and gone in my life. A lot of people have played a lot of mentor roles in my life. A lot of people have been partners in my life. Um, I'm only 35 years old. I have a lot happen in my life in the short span of time. I could probably write a few books about it. Instead of shouting someone out, I think for me, it would be to tell everybody out there to find someone that they can at least talk to, you know? Whether it's not, not just personal stuff. Like, I'm not trying to be like all sappy and stuff. Like, hey, if you're alone, go find someone to talk to them. You should do that regardless. Always find someone to talk to and be in your life and help you in whatever personal stuff you have going on as well. But from a professional standpoint, to have a mentor who is, a little bit older than you, who's played several roles, who's understood what it means to be in a position of responsibility, um, I would say go out and find someone like that in your life that can help you, at least give you some advice or direct you in the right way, so you're not left trying to figure it all out on your own. I think some people take that for granted and they realize that, oh, maybe this person can introduce me to this person, and maybe I just don't want to ask them because it's inconvenient or it doesn't look good. The only person that it's harming in this entire scenario is you for not asking for help. You not going and asking that person for that introduction. You going and asking that person not to give you some advice and say, hey, look, this is where I am right now, whether it might be financially or in the longevity of my company or where my team is right now or whatever it might be in whatever industry you're in, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not going to have all the answers. And I think that's the one thing that I want to put out there. And if you could take of it what you want, you can, you know, be egotistical and self-sabotage yourself saying you know all the answers, but you honestly don't. And the only thing that's going to really help you get to that next level is finding those people who are going to help open the right doors for you and allow you to be the better person you can be. So, yeah, I had to learn it the hard way. I've experienced a lot of stuff in my life. There's so many different random things that you go through in life. And trust me, I've been through the deepest, darkest hells of depression, and I'm back. If I can come back, trust me, anybody can. So that's all I'm going to really say.
Beautiful, man. I fucking love it, dude. I commend you for everything that you've done, dude. Seriously. Really, really
Thank
inspiring,
you.
really motivating. All right, guys, and there you have it. That was the Spacesal episode, second episode of 2025. Sounds really weird still saying that we are in the year of 2025, the year of Nuketown for Black Ops 2. Really fucking weird, but very happy to be continuing the halftime Counter-Strike podcast saga, and I'm very happy to have you guys continuing. Jesus Christ, I don't know what's happening with me. I am very happy to have you guys coming along with me for another year, the second year now of the halftime show, and I got some stuff I really want to tell you guys, but I can't quite tell you yet. So you guys are just gonna have to stay followed at halftime CS on Twitter. Subscribe to the channel, you know what I mean. All the links are down in the description. Feel free to check them out and stay tuned for some very, 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 very important news that you guys will not want to miss out on. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and drop Spacesal a little comment and show the guy some love, man. He's a good dude. We will catch you guys next Friday. You guys have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Much love. Until next time, y'all.